sand, ready to go about laying her eggs. So that means in her body cavity, the eggs are developing, and more and more and more she becomes crowded. And so had not Ranger Jim found her and brought her to show you on television, by now she would perhaps have laid her eggs. And I promise you this, that when Ranger Jim finds a turtle or any kind of creature that I show to boys and girls, I take that creature back to the exact same spot where I caught it, okay? So I will take Mrs. Blanding's turtle back to where I captured her. I will release her there, and then she can go about raising her family. So we would expect that of Christians, wouldn't we? We don't want to take a creature, if we were to release it in a strange area, it would not know where a source of food was or even a source of water. Okay, we're going to exchange those, and I have another creature for you to see here, and this is the painted turtle. This is the eastern painted turtle. Very interesting creature. Looks as though someone had painted, enameled its shell, doesn't it? A beautiful turtle, and they have a very interesting way of identifying them. I can tell that this is a young female because she has very short black front toenails. The males all have long, soft, white toenails, and this comes into play when they're mating. The male swims along beside her and tries to attract her with his beautiful colors. Then he swims backward beside her and courting her all along the way. And she has nothing to do with him for a while. But eventually, she will stop in the water. Then he comes up almost nose to nose with her with his long, soft toenails and begins to caress her cheeks. Oh, isn't that romantic? Not for us, but it is for turtles, okay? And so then they fall in love, and then they live happily ever after, okay? So that's basically the story of the eastern painted turtle. You can tell them, you can identify the sex by the length of the toenails. Once again, boys and girls, the wonderful creator Jesus we have has made these things, and we can study them and just learn forever. I look forward to the day when we can go with Jesus and learn truly all about them. What a wonderful Heavenly Father we have. So Ranger Jim saying, as always, don't you dare forget to tell Jesus that you love him, because he really does love you.
Hi, boys and girls. Knowing Jesus is so much fun, sometimes you just want to sing. Psalms 89:1 talks about that. Hannah, can you tell us what that verse says?
I will sing of the mercies of the Lord forever.
Boys and girls, will you join us on this fun song for Jesus?
I will sing of the mercies of the Lord forever. I will sing. I will sing. I will sing of the mercies of the Lord forever. I will sing of the mercies of the Lord. With my mouth will I make known thy faithfulness, thy faithfulness. With my mouth will I make known thy faithfulness to all generations. I will sing of the mercies of the Lord forever. I will sing. I will sing. I will sing of the mercies of the Lord forever. I will sing of the mercies of the Lord.
Today, boys and girls, have fun singing for Jesus.
Hi, we have a really yummy recipe for you today. It's a Mexican dish.
It's burrito casserole, and I'm going to read you the ingredients right now. 10 flour tortillas, your favorite beans. We've chosen chili, veggie shreds, cheddar flavor, salsa, lettuce, tomatoes, black olives sliced, avocado if desired. We've chosen not to use that today. And tofu better than sour cream. Okay, let's get started.
Okay, first we're going to start with the salsa. Put some salsa in. Okay, why don't you go ahead and stir that around, Jody?
Just put a thin layer on the bottom.
Okay.
You want to tell them why we put this on the bottom, Kate?
We're putting this on the bottom so that our tortillas don't burn. Okay, our next one is our tortillas. We're going to take these tortillas. And always wash your hands before you do things with your hands. I'm going to put these down on the sides. We're going to tear a little bit of our tortilla for the edges. we go. A little bit more. Okay. Looks good.
Okay.
Now we're
And-
going to put some beans down.
Okay.
Why don't you stick those down, Jody? I'll go ahead and stir. Okay. There we go. Smells good. Love chili beans. Okay. Why don't you put a little bit more? There we go.
That looks so good.
Yeah, it
Okay.
does.
The next thing we're going to put on is veggie cheese. Just sprinkle the cheese around. And this is veggie cheese. It's a great alternative for cheese.
It
tastes really good.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just sprinkle around there lightly all over your pan.
There we go.
Okay. Looks about good. Okay, then the next thing we're going to put on is
our
tortillas. Again.
that. Break it up.
Okay.
Yeah,
Then we're
that's
going to
good.
put on more salsa.
Stir this around. Okay. Why don't you put a little bit more? Just a
We're
little
going to
bit
put
more.
on some beans.
A little bit more in here. There we go.
Okay. Then more beans.
Okay. Looks good.
It's looking great.
Yes, it is.
This is one of our favorite casseroles. Okay, and then the next thing we put on is cheese. More cheese.
Put some more cheese on here. I'll do that for you.
Okay, after you get your cheese on, then you're going to put more
Tortillas.
tortillas on.
I'll pull these up on the sides a little bit. That. Break some up. Stick them in there.
Okay. Then we put on more beans.
Okay. Okay. Keep coming. Looks good.
Okay, then we're going to put on some more cheese. Good. Okay.
And put
Now we
some
put on some
more.
olives.
Some olives. Decorate this.
Spread them all around.
And after you're done with everything and you put it all on, you bake this in the oven for 30 to 40 minutes at 350. Okay,
Make sure you get an adult to help you put it in the oven too.
okay. And we have a finished product over there. And we've taken a piece and cut the piece out of it to show you. And we're gonna decorate that for you and show you how we decorate it. You can do whatever you want.
Start with the
take lettuce and
Okay.
you can put tomatoes on. Just have fun with it.
It doesn't matter, whatever you want to start with.
Some
It's always
tomatoes
gonna turn out
on it.
Cheese.
Just have fun. And look pretty. And this sour cream is tofutti sour cream. And it's very good for you. And it's really tastes good. Tastes almost exactly like regular sour cream. We really like this a lot. It's a good alternative for sour cream. Doesn't that look yummy?
It sure does.
Can't wait to bite into that one.
You have to try this recipe at home. You might even want to invite some company over, friends or something. They're going to love this one.
Looks really good. Well, until next time,
Keep cooking.
and eat healthy.
Oh, no, that's okay. You're not disturbing me. I was just thinking about some of the things that have been happening here in Israel. If you got a moment, come on over and I'll share with you what I'm thinking. My name's Elijah, and I live back in the mountains. Before Ahab became king, I had been hoping and praying that a king would come to the throne who would love God and would worship him and who would be a good example for the people to follow. But when Ahab became king, he decided he didn't want to obey or worship God. And then he went and married Jezebel, the daughter of the king of Zidon, who is also a prophet of Baal. And when Jezebel came to Israel, she brought with her the worship of Baal in a big way. Before long, the king was worshiping Baal too. And then he set up idols and altars to Baal along the paths in the woods. And he tried to force people to worship Baal because he said, Baal's the one who sends the rain, not the Lord. It made me sick to see how confused the people were. They didn't know whether they should worship the Lord or worship Baal. So I started to pray and ask the Lord if he would do something to cause the people and the king to realize that Baal was nothing but a fake and that he was the only one worthy of worship. One day while I was praying, the Lord impressed me that now was the time for God to display his power. And so down the mountainside I went, across the valley, all the way to the king's palace, and I didn't stop until I stood face to face with the king. I looked him straight in the eye, and I raised my hands toward heaven, and I said, as the Lord God of heaven lives, before whose presence I stand, there shall not be dew or rain until I say so. With that, I turned around and left. The Lord directed me over toward the brook Cherith, where he had water. There was water for me to drink, and every morning before the sun came up and every evening before the sun went down, God sent ravens to feed me. After the water in the brook dried up, God directed me back over to Zarephath, where a widow gave me food to eat and water to drink. It was probably about 3 years, and God told me that it was time now to go back to King Ahab. So back to the land of Israel I went, and I met King Ahab on the road. When he saw me, he frowned, and he says, is that you troubler of Israel? And I looked at him and I said, I've not troubled Israel. You have, in that you have not remembered the commandments of the Lord, and you followed after Baal. Now, gather all the people to me up on Mount Carmel, along with all of the prophets of Baal. So at the appointed time, the king assembled all of the people on Mount Carmel, including the prophets of Baal. When they had gathered all around me, I asked them, how long are you going to waver between serving the Lord or serving Baal? If the Lord is God, then serve him. If Baal is God, then serve him. People were too afraid to answer. So I told them, I'm the only prophet left in Israel, a prophet of God. But there are 400 prophets of Baal. I challenged the prophets of Baal to a contest to determine who the real God is. We'll both build altars. They can build an altar to Baal, and I'll build an altar to the Lord. Then we'll prepare that altar by placing wood in a sacrifice ready to be burned. But neither of us will start the wood on fire. And then they can pray to Baal, and I'll pray to the Lord in heaven. And the one who demonstrates his power by sending fire down from heaven to consume the sacrifice, he will be God. All the people thought that was a pretty good idea, and so they agreed to that contest. And then I turned to the prophets of Baal and I said, since there are so many of you, you go first. And so they did. They made their altar, and they put their sacrifice on the wood, and then they started to pray. Oh, Baal, hear us, they prayed. But there was no answer. Louder and louder they started to pray, and there was still no answer. So now they started to jump around the altar. No answer. In desperation, they started to take knives, and they started to cut their clothes, and then they started to cut themselves until the blood just flowed. Still there was no answer. All day long they continued until finally, towards evening, they were exhausted confused, weak from the loss of blood, and unable to continue. They withdrew from the contest. I turned to the people and I told them to draw closer to me, and they did. Then I repaired the altar of the Lord that had been broken down. And I prepared the sacrifice on the wood, and then I dug a ditch all the way around